My name's Greg Payce. I'm an artist. I live in Calgary. I have a studio behind the house where I make my work. I started making things when I was very young, about 5 years old. Dug out clay from behind the fence in Edmonton and made things and painted them with oil paints, and been kind of obsessed with it ever since. I went to grad school in Halifax, and that was an eye-opener because ceramics was taken really, really seriously, and particularly the history of ceramics, and learned a lot about that. And then I got a job out at what was called the Alberta College of Art at the time, and I taught there for 27 years. Part of my deal with the AU Arts was I have a sort of a research mandate. You get sort of write an annual report on what you've done, and I took that really, really seriously. And I sort of took the opportunity to sort of push the envelope within what I did in ceramics, and that's why you see what I'm doing. It's not exactly straight up pottery, although it all comes from that. I am looking for a visceral response. There's lots of ideas involved with what I do, and it all comes from a fairly theoretical place for me. But I think my idea of effective art or craft or whatever is something that grabs you, something that moves you, something that just doesn't hit the intellect but hits your eyes and your soul and your spirit and your emotions and things like that. And one of the things that I watched happen with my exhibitions, I had one at the Richmond Art Gallery in the late 90s, I believe, and you know, it was lots of negative space things at that time. And I would watch somebody come around and they'd look at things and they'd move by quickly, and then all of a sudden they'd see what was going on and they'd go, and then they'd walk around and look at the whole show again. So it's something that, you know, grabs people. It doesn't demand that you read the label. You don't have to know anything about why I did it. You just get to enjoy the experience. And I think the best things are things that draw something out of the viewer's experience and helps sort of push that. So I think my work's very accessible. I also think that ceramics is a really incredibly interesting and open media. Some things, I think, you know, painting, I'm not going to slag painting, but painting, people go to the store and they buy tubes and they put it on canvases and there's this whole convention. But in my studio, I have full control of all the materials, and it's not over yet. All of the colors you see in that exhibition are things that I've invented myself. You can't buy any of that stuff in a shop. So I get to control the whole palette. I get to control the material I'm working with, and it has real physical properties. It's an actual thing. The thing that people don't see is all the testing. I have boxes of test tiles and color samples and stuff, and when I do a keynote presentation, people see that, but it's hard to see that in a gallery. But everything that's on any of those has gone through a very thorough testing process. And I know I used to teach glaze and clay chemistry, so I basically had to learn it to teach it, and I put it to use. So the unfired things are probably two or 300,000 years old. I mean, I'm sure people have been making things out of clay for a long, long time. And it's one of those things, I see myself at just this point in time, what somebody is doing with it, and I'm hoping in another, 250 years, that somebody else is looking at what I did and building on that. So I'm on the shoulders of the billions of human beings that have lived and done this. So I think the relationship between us all is we're all senior artists, and we've all stuck to our guns about learning how to do something well, which is not something that contemporary art education is about at all. And everybody gets to do what they want to do, but I think people like Jane and Lou and myself are a bit of a dying thing. I don't know that the whole tradition of getting to be good at something is necessarily something that's really going to be a big thing going forward. So we're all very good at doing what we do, and there's kind of a sense of awe from people who don't know anything about it. And I think that that draws us together. But I'm going to sort of segue into this whole, not intermedia, but remediation thing. I'll just use my work as an example. When you walk into that exhibition room, you're going to see probably less ceramics than anything else. But I think it's all ceramics. And probably for the last 10, 15 years, I've been very interested in what happens when you make something out of a different material. So there's a piece called flock in there, which would never have happened if I hadn't learned how to throw all these negative space things. But there's absolutely no way that that piece can be made out of ceramics. So I take those ideas from ceramics and I make them in another material, and it's basically 90 things that screw together. And it's an impossible, I couldn't do it with that precision to make it work. And that can work in a public space, and people can throw tomatoes at it if they want to. And the difference in the media gives it a different material meaning and a different presence when people are interpreting it. The same thing with the lenticular images, which are basically wiggle pictures. I don't know if you got them in Cracker Jacks when you were a kid, but there's 24 pictures from various different angles taken, and then a software company puts these together and they print this image and then they put a lens on it so you can walk by and it moves it. So I'm using the medium photography and lenticular technology to basically make a three-dimensional object accessible as in a two-dimensional format. So I can blow up the size, I can increase things that are this high to life scale, and so it opens up possibilities. I can pack them in a crate and ship them to Europe for about 1/100th the cost it would take to move the objects over. So the change in media really does a thing. I think that with this exhibition as a whole, it's not a snobby exhibition. It's not, I'm smarter than you and you have to figure out what I'm doing. I think everybody has things made out of metal, or middle glass, fiber and textiles and ceramic in their homes, and this stuff all comes out of all of that basic stuff, and I think that people will have an edge in. People also like to appreciate something that's done well, and I think we're an example of people who do that. And then there's a real counterpoint to that out in culture today. There's something called sloppy craft, which is, a really interesting new intellectual exercise, but I don't know that it's something that's going to continue into the future, which is the kinds of things that Jane and Lou and I are doing. And I hope that people get a sense that from my part of the exhibition is that if you keep working at something, you can constantly improve it and make it better and more interesting. You don't have to change streams in order to produce interesting things. Those things, the things that I do are unlimited, and they have just as valid endpoints as jumping out of your skin and trying something different.